Hello, I'm Ciaran Vaughan, and my project is on the application of rhythm in music. Music has an underlying pulse known as a beat, and this is present throughout the entire piece that they're performing. It's like this. Every click represents a beat in the music. In practice, a metronome like that helps a musician hear the pulse and be able to fit the notes that they need to into a beat. But when performing, the musician has to feel the pulse inside her head. Even if the pulse is invisible, the performer and the audience can still feel this underlying beat. Um, Notes that occur on this beat are called the downbeat, while notes that occur off of the beat are called the offbeats. So the notes that I'm going to clap and the claps that line up with the beat are the downbeats, and the claps that are not on the clicks are the offbeats. Rhythm in music is usually indicated by a time signature, which will look like these. A time signature tells a musician two things. The bottom number indicates which note gets the principal beat, and the top number indicates how many of that note is in each measure. For example, in Telemann's Sonata in G minor, the time signature is 12/8 time. This means that an eighth note gets the beat, and there are 12 of them per measure. So from this, we can say that 1/8 note is 1/12 of a measure. If you look at the score, you can see that there are a lot of 16th notes. A 16th note is half of an eighth note, because 1/2 times 1/8 equals 1/16. So a 16th note would be 1/24 of a measure, because 1/2 of 1/12 is 1/24. This means that there are 24 16th notes in a measure. The benefits of knowing the division of the notes can help the musician better understand the music. Looking back at the 16th notes of the Telemann piece, by knowing how the notes divide, I know that there are two 16th notes for every eighth note, because half of an eighth note is 1/16th note. So 2 times 1/16 equals 1/8. So with that, I can find the principal beats. In this excerpt of the Telemann piece, the principal beat is always at the start of the measure, the first one. So I know that the 16th note is the first principal beat. To find the second, well, I know that the 2/16ths make an eighth, so I just have to group the two 2/16ths together. This means that the third 16th note is the second principal beat. Yes, the third 16th note is where the second principal beat is. Knowing this helps a musician be able to correctly play the music, because I know two of these notes have to fit into a single beat. So if I'm struggling with my rhythms, I can use math to figure out how the notes fit into the beat. Here's the example of this excerpt clapped. If I look at this piece by Robert Schumann, which is a duet, you can see that the top line has quarter notes, while the bottom line has eighths. Eighths are half of a quarter note. 1/8 times 2 equals 1/4. So by knowing the fractions, I know that there are 2/8 every quarter note. Because I know that, it helps me be able to put the notes together in a correct rhythm when I want to play both lines together. Here's an example. Here's what it sounds like. So, by knowing how the eighth notes fit into the quarter notes, I was able to put the two lines together. But there are limitations. Quote, the duration of the note are influenced by several elements, not only the notated metrical length, but by the musical length too. Unquote. Music is not always played with strict rhythmic accuracy. When playing music, the players will stress a specific beat, making it longer than the note is actually indicated to be. I will demonstrate this using the Telemann example from earlier. This is what it sounds like without any of the notes being stressed. This is what it sounds like when I do stress the notes. Which notes are stressed is indicated by the meter. The beats of a measure can be divided into strong and weak beats. In 12/8 time, the strong beats are beat 1, 4, 7, and 10. These are also called macro beats, while all the other beats of the measure are called micro beats. Of course, there is still a limit to how many primary beats there can be per measure, 12 in this case, but the indicated length is not always divided evenly in the 16th notes. Like when I stress one note, I have to make the other notes a bit shorter. But that's not what's indicated. The reason for this is that when music is played with a mechanical rhythm, it's less interesting. So players will stress these notes to make them sound more musical. There are also a lot of other factors that go into music performance that influence how a note is played. Quote, if we play a melody in a tempo dictated exactly by the metronome, but first very high with short and strong staccato notes, and then low with soft legato notes, the first version will seem slower than the second. Unquote. Staccato are these little dots above the notes. They indicate to a player to make the notes more separate. To do this, the musician will shorten the length of the note. Legato means to play with as little space between the notes as possible. I will demonstrate this. First, I will play with high staccato notes with a metronome. Now I will play the same notes but down an octave without staccato. How short the musician is supposed to make the staccato notes depends on the style of the piece and the period it was written in, or just player's interpretation sometimes. Regardless of the style, staccato notes shorten the notes played, which is something that knowing the fractions of the notes can't tell you how to do. In conclusion, while knowing how measures divide into fractions can help a musician better understand how the notes fit into a measure and a beat, and how to put different parts together, it is limited in how a piece is made to sound more interesting. Players will sacrifice rhythmic accuracy to make the piece more interesting. And while a time signature does indicate what beats are stressed, knowing the math behind the division of the fractions and of the beat does not. Thank you.